Hello, Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Rising. Welcome to my channel. It is such a blessing to be here with you, so thank you for being here with me for your February 2024 recap. I'm so very grateful for the opportunity to connect with you today. In the description box below, you will find links to information on personal readings, the Soul Good membership channel on Telegram, and ways to support the work I do here if you would like to explore any of those options. You will also find a timestamp if you would like to jump to the start of your reading. Please do keep in mind this is a collective reading, not a personal reading, so use your discernment and take only what resonates with you. If you find that something shared does resonate, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Comment below and or share this content as it tells YouTube that there may be something valuable here for someone else, which is a gift to both this channel and to others as well. And I greatly, greatly appreciate that support. February did bring for us the meeting of Chiron and the North Node, which inspires us to recognize and accept our wounds and activate our own healing. We're encouraged to forge a new path forward, utilizing the wisdom, knowledge, and intuitive truths we've gained to align us with our higher calling. So we are going to be looking at your overall energy, the realizations or epiphanies that February 2024 brought for you, how this might impact your journey moving forward, and getting some messages or advice to best support and serve you moving forward. Before we dive into the cards, though, I do want to share with you, Capricorn, that as I was preparing for this reading, all of a sudden, I felt stuffy, like in my sinuses and my throat a little bit, if that makes any sense. And I got this feeling of addressing two things. I feel like, first of all, if you are someone who has felt stuffy or congested, or like you've got, I don't even know, you guys, I know this is going to sound gross, but like you have like drainage in your throat. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand like weather can play into these things and blah, blah, blah. But I feel like if this is something that you want to tune into on an intuitive level more deeply, you may get something about this. So I feel like for some of you, this congestion comes from more of this like Aries energy, which rules the head, right? And I feel like there's a need to step into your independence a little bit more, to be a little bit more fearless, a little bit more direct, to take the lead of your life. And I feel like this may have been coming through for you in the month of February and potentially even now. With that energy that or that feeling that I'm feeling in my throat, I feel like this is coming from that more throat chakra ruled area, really encouraging you to express yourself very clearly. And you may have experienced things like that in the month of February as well, where you were encouraged to communicate your wants, your needs, your everything with how do I say, very clearly, to just be in this state where you are not struggling to express whatever truths you are experiencing in your life, okay, whether that be towards yourself or towards other people. I just feel like this is something that may have came through for you in the month of February. Certainly you will know if that is for you. I'm not a doctor. I cannot, will not, do not give medical advice, but I just feel like that may be something that some of you have been experiencing. All right, Capricorn, that aside, let's get to it. All right, please, Father, Mother, Life, Christ, Universe, Spirits, Guides, Angels, our cosmic team, our ancestors, our higher selves, tell us about the overall energy for Capricorn, please. What came through for Capricorn in the month of February? Thank you. I feel like that one as well. All right, tell us, please, what realizations or epiphanies did February 2024 bring for Capricorn? Okay. Oh, okay. Tell us, please, how might this impact Capricorn's journey moving forward? Yep, there they are. And what messages or advice will best support and serve Capricorn moving forward, please? I just heard the word learning. Learning. I'm not exactly sure how that might apply to who it may resonate with, but I do feel like for some of you, you've definitely been learning about yourself, I feel. So that's pretty interesting. I just heard as well, keep exploring. So I feel like you may be on this path of self-discovery in many ways, really getting to the depths of who you are. Very interesting. All right, tell us more, please, about the overall energy for Capricorn. Wow, all right, thank you. Tell us more, please, what realizations or epiphanies did February 2024 bring? Thank you. Tell us more, please, how might this impact Capricorn's journey moving forward? You know, I just have to tell you, it's really interesting, Capricorn, because now that I've told you about, you know, all of these physical things that have been going on, like I really don't feel it so much anymore within my being. So it's very interesting how those things seem to happen. Okay. Anything else we need to know, please, about the overall energy for Capricorn? What came through for them in February? All right, thank you. Anything else we need to know, please, about the realizations or epiphanies that February 2024 brought for Capricorn? Thank you. Anything else? Yep, all right, thank you. And any other messages or advice that will best support and serve Capricorn moving forward, please? Any other messages or advice to best support and serve Capricorn moving forward, please? Nope. Okay. There they are. Thank you. All right. So the overall energy for you, Capricorn, we do have here the law of giving and receiving. Give away a material belonging you love to someone. I feel like the month of February really positioned you in such a way. It's interesting because I don't necessarily feel like this is actually about a material item, though that certainly could be possible. This is a collective reading, right? So we're not limited to, you know, simply it being something else. But I do feel like there's this energy around, how do I say, it's like giving more patience to others, opening up to different ways of thinking, how others experience things. So maybe giving more compassion. It's a very interesting energy. I really feel like it's almost more about the giving and receiving, or the exchange of almost like ideas or feelings. For some of you, there's like this olive branch energy I'm getting, which is kind of strange. You'll know how that resonates with you if it's for you, certainly. If not, leave it for someone else. But I feel as though there's this, it's almost like being open to the exchange of different feelings or new perspectives, and potentially putting yourself in a position where you are, you know, giving, like I said, more patience, more compassion, more understanding. Maybe you're just trying to be more open to the perspectives of other people. It feels like it's been quite a learning experience for you. I do feel like in some cases, this may have been very uncomfortable in ways, simply because Capricorn, you tend to have this, I know how to do this and I know how to make this work, and doing it any different way isn't going to happen. or you kind of struggle sometimes to see how doing things differently may also be the right way, right? There's not only one right way, there are many right ways. So I feel like for some of you, this may have been a little bit of a challenge, but there are these butterflies here on the card that are flying in front of the moon. If you can see those, I know it's pretty light, so I do apologize, but I feel like for some of you, you've been transforming through some of the illusions that you've been living in. And what I mean by that is these belief systems or ideas, paradigms that you, how do I say, like these are things that you've just been kind of living by for maybe your whole life. Okay. They may have been impressed upon you as a child, or, maybe you've taken them on as a result of wounds or traumas or things like this. And I do feel like February was trying to encourage you to really open up to, again, new ways, right? I feel like it's really been meant to transform you. So that's very, very fascinating. Let's see what else we have. The law of transmutation. Energize the mental picture of your dream. There's this whole kind of energy of what you think about, you bring about. And I'll be honest, this has been a reoccurring theme in many of the readings that I've been doing lately, not only for the membership that I have, but also for these recaps. So I feel as though for you, there's this whole kind of like, what I'm going to try to put this as delicately as I can, but I like to be very transparent with the messages that are coming through and deliver them in the most truthful way possible. So I feel like the whole kind of energy here is like, essentially, you've got to stop thinking negatively, right? There has to be this energizing of positivity in your experience, or, faith, hope. The more that you sink into those lower vibrational frequencies or negativity, that is what you're going to experience. So I feel as though you've been encouraged to, again, maybe just start to shift your perspectives. Everything doesn't have to be negative, right? And I'm not saying that that's how you think all the time, okay? But there is this, how do I say this? Capricorn, sometimes there's this energy that you can kind of get trapped in, of being, maybe pessimistic, a little bit cynical, right? Even fearful. And I feel as though all of the things that have transpired for you in the month of February have been trying to pull you out of that. Even if you experience something that we might label as being negative, doesn't mean that it has to, that's the only way that it can be, right? So something that I've adapted in my own experience, just based off of what I've learned about myself and spiritual development at large, is, the things that we experience as being negative or challenging or, tumultuous or these sorts of things, is really to grow us. It's to evolve us. We would not grow and evolve if we didn't experience these things. So I do feel as though the overall energy is really encouraging you, or was at the very least, in the month of February to, reposition yourself in such a way that you are giving more focus to what it is you actually do want to experience. And you may have even, if you look back on your month, you may have even gone through experiences where you were expecting the worst, and the worst is what you got. Or you were expecting things to go badly or to not turn out, or, something like that. And that's what happened. Okay, so there's this whole kind of energy of as within, so without. The world is a mirror to you. And so I feel as though with this energy here, you are being encouraged to recognize how much power your thoughts, your frequency, your actions, the way you feel, right, your emotions, how much those things do actually energize your reality, how much they influence your reality and what it is you experience. You have here partnerships, balance, one-on-one relationships. Yeah, it's very interesting, right? Because there's that whole kind of energy of, an exchange between different people, being open to, new perspectives and things like this. So I feel like this partnerships, balance, and one-on-one relationships certainly was highlighted for you in the month of February, if you're resonating with this so far. right? I feel as though you may have had experiences with other people that were meant to open your eyes to certain things, that were meant to enlighten you about yourself and about others. I also feel like there's something here about this whole kind of realization of people don't think like you. And here's the thing, I feel like this goes without saying, okay, because I feel like none of us think the same. Certainly there are similarities, okay, we can get on or we can meet people that are on the same frequency as us, you know, and are like-souled, like-minded, but it's not the same. And so I feel like something that may have really kind of come to the surface and really been very more at the forefront of your experience in the month of February was really showing you everyone is unique. Everyone thinks about things and sees things, experiences things, you know, tremendously different in many cases than you. And that's okay, right? I mean, a good example of this is, you know, you can have something happen and you can have, you know, law enforcement come to take statements, and you can have different witnesses explaining the same experience but in very different ways, right? I think that's a good way to kind of apply it to our world, like our very, you know, physical world. You know, or more in a literal sense, let's say. But I feel like this is something that was brought to the forefront for you. You know, I also feel as though this happened, I feel, um, or if you again are resonating with what I've been saying so far, this whole kind of exchanging of perspectives, I feel like was meant to bring you more into balance. Because here's the thing, if you are in this very kind of rigid way of thinking, you can be like you can be severely out of balance, right? And that can be in your relationships within yourself, your relationship with yourself. It certainly puts you in a box and can create a lot of tension in your relationships. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't have your own beliefs, your own values, you know, shouldn't have boundaries, certainly. But I feel as though, you know, you can be open to perspectives. And this is something that I've taught my oldest son, who is fixing to graduate from high school. And it took me, probably a good 3 years to really get him to open up to this. Is people can offer you their perspectives. That does not mean that it has to be your belief. It doesn't mean that that has to be your perspective. It is simply another way of looking at things. It is simply more information that is provided to you in order for you to make an informed decision. Because if you are seeing things in a very, you know, like tunnel vision type of way, then you're only seeing like one option, which really, really, really creates this very small world for you to live in, if you will. And so I feel like, you know, the whole thing about this coming up for you was to bring things more into balance. So you can have your ways of doing things, but that doesn't mean that everyone else is going to agree with that. And it's okay. And I feel like over time, should you adopt this way of living, I feel like your partnerships, your relationships will probably only get better. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think there's this whole kind of thing of like finding a balance between your beliefs, your values, you know, your perspectives, and that of others, and understanding that it's okay, right? Like it just seems to me like it's been to put you in this more flexible state, which, you know, Capricorn being ruled by Saturn tends to be, or can be, you know, very rigid in its ways. And so it's meant to ultimately, which I feel like some of y'all are cringing about that. I'm getting fear coming up. But you know, I feel like the whole point is to get you more flexible, right? To put you in that state and to show you that there are other possibilities available. You have here as well, family roots and foundation. So some of you, this certainly, right, because we have partnerships, one-on-one relationships, and here we have family. So for some of you, this could have had something to do with your family, maybe your at-home family. So, your partner, your children, perhaps for others of you, it could have been like your blood family, your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, that sort of thing. And for others of you still, it could have just been those that you consider to be like family for you, or that you've built a family with, right? So I do feel like for some of you, this has been a bit of, how do I say, a bit kind of shining the spotlight, if you will, on these different types of relationships, and bringing some more balance into those, more flexibility into those. Okay, letting people be who they are while you are also who you are. Okay, and understanding that just because someone has a particular way of doing something doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's not your way. And that's okay. All right. So we also have here on this card roots and foundation. And I do feel like this energy has been coming up for you to build you stronger foundations. Like how do I say? To build you stronger roots and foundations in yourself. And I'm a huge proponent of the more you know, the better. The more you know, the easier it is to navigate. The more you know, the easier it is to make informed decisions. You're not just running through life all willy-nilly. So I feel as though, all of this has been showing up in order to really allow you to kind of build up this lexicon for yourself, so that as you move forward, you have these strong foundations to stand on. I mean, if you're operating from just one way of doing things, if somebody comes along and it's like, no, you can't do it that way, you have to do it this way, chances are you'll experience this falling apart. Whereas if, it's almost like the tree that sways in the wind, right? It's flexible, so it's not just going to crack under pressure. And I feel like this is something that was coming through for you to provide that sway with the changing times, with the changing of the wind, if you will, right? And to create foundations. Because here's the thing, like, if we're rigid, if we are very, restrictive in our way of thinking, our way of doing things, our relationships, that creates a lot of tension. And I feel like moving forward, we are going to need some of that strong support, right? I feel like moving forward, we are going to, and this is for everyone, not just for you, Capricorn. I feel like we're going to need to be able to be very flexible and be very adaptable, and to be more flowing with things as we move forward, because more and more people are seeming to wake up to their individuality. And I feel like the less people are willing to be open to that individuality of each person, right? The uniqueness of each person, the more conflict I feel like there's going to be. So I hope this makes sense. I also feel, that essentially another big part of this is, if you want to experience positivity in your reality, or if you want to experience good things, peace, harmony, in your reality, then that is what you have to give energy to, right? If you want people to be willing to understand you, to be willing to open up to your ways of thinking, doing, being, you have to be willing to give that, or to give energy to that, to allow other people to do that as well. So I hope this is making sense. But it feels like, all of these things, again, that you may have experienced in the energy of February were meant to be kind of laying this foundation for you moving forward. Again, with Pluto moving out of Capricorn this year, and, really having this kind of long stint in Aquarius for, you know, for a vast majority of the year. You know, I feel like for some of Capricorn, the Capricorns out there, that, you know, that how do I say this? Um, the reformative nature of Aquarius, I feel like, may be a little bit um cringy, we'll say, you know, or the unpredictability of Aquarius may be a little bit cringy. And so I feel like it's really trying to kind of get you prepared, you know, for once it moves into Aquarius for its 20-year stay. We also have here Priestess. How are you being called to step up and lead? So there's that energy that I was picking up on even before we came into the reading, right? I do feel like, here's the thing about a leader, and I feel like this goes without saying, you know, most of us are well aware of this, but a good leader isn't one who is like, this is how it has to be and that's it. We've worked for people like that. We've lived with people like that. We've experienced people like that. And it really is quite unpleasant. And so, you know, a good leader is someone who's willing to be open to listening to different ideas, to listening to different perspectives, to, you know, allowing things to change as they need to. And again, I feel like this is really, really what was coming forward for you in the month of February, really putting you in this position to just, okay, these things are different. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means that we can't agree on the right way. And it's okay. And the thing of it is, Capricorn, I mean, again, this goes without saying, but the right way for you may not be the right way for someone else, right? You may start putting on your shoes with the left foot. Others may start putting on their shoes with the right foot, but that doesn't mean that either is wrong. It just means they're different, right? It's just about what works for each person. Yeah. And we can live, how do I say this? Now, I want to be very careful and intentional about how I word this, because certainly there are some people, let's say, where we are on completely different levels of the spectrum and we are completely out of alignment with each other. And there are some people that are simply just not meant to be in our experience. Okay. It is what it is. But, you know, if you are, let's say, aligned with someone, or, you know, there's someone in your life, just because you don't see things exactly the same way doesn't mean you can't live harmoniously. Okay? It doesn't mean that they can't still teach you something. And that's the thing of it, right? Many of us have had experiences where let's say, our family members don't see things the way that we do. And we can learn from them. I think oftentimes we kind of go into this state of you know, like conflict and polarity, and we're like butting heads and all of these things. And it's like, you know, again, that doesn't excuse like toxicity or abuse or any of those sorts of things. But there are situations where we're meant to be experiencing people who are or think, you know, vastly different than we do, because we're meant to be learning. Sometimes people who think differently and see things from a different perspective and understand the world differently can teach us something. Okay? And if we keep our hearts open to that, I mean, that's what being a real leader is about. Not just a leader in the sense of, you know, being in a leadership position, you know, as like the head of a household, or as a, you know, management at a job or something like that, but also of our own lives. We also have Warrior Woman. Have you answered your deepest calling? Yeah, you know, I feel like when we were coming into the reading, I was saying, you know, there's this whole kind of energy of like taking the lead, or being the leader of your life. And I feel like I don't know why I'm getting the word many. It feels to me like February really brought through this energy of, is this what I really want? Is this what I really want? Not from a space of like, Is this what society thinks is best? Is this what my family thinks is best? You know, is this what is going to like bring me the most money, or, you know, any of those sorts of very kind of surface level, um, or external ways of seeing things, but more, is this what's filling me up inside? Is this what is providing for me, you know, happiness, joy, you know, fulfillment? Are these things bringing or adding things to my life? And I feel like this could be a wide array of things. For some, certainly, maybe it was partnerships, or, you know, roots you've established, you know, maybe the family you've chosen, or things like this. But I also feel as though it could be that, you know, it's just like, is this how I want to live my life? Or is what I'm doing with my life satisfactory? Is it something that makes me feel good? Am I excited to wake up in the morning? You know, I feel like these are questions that could have been, you know, you could have been bringing to yourself throughout the month of February, because I do feel that, I feel like for some of you, you've been playing small. And maybe not in a, you know, an external way. Maybe, you know, maybe you have a really great job or whatever, but it feels like for who you truly are and what you are truly capable of, and what is actually available out there for you, you know, like the plans God has for you. Maybe you call it something else. I call it God, so that's what I'm going to refer to it as, but feel free to insert word here. You know, maybe you know, God has something much, much bigger planned for you, and you have yet to step into that. And so perhaps for some of you, for the month of February, this is something that maybe was stirring within you. And some of these questions may have started coming up to get you really thinking, right? So very interesting. Let's look at what realizations or epiphanies February may have brought for you, though I feel like we've talked about it quite a bit. The law of forgiveness: release all judgments and set yourself free. Yes. Yes, right. Very, very much like the energy that I was already picking up on. So I do feel like for some of you, you have probably been encouraged. I feel like for some of you, this could have been going on for some time now. Maybe not just in the month of February, but more previous to that even. Maybe for several months, where you've been encouraged to let things go. Or maybe you've just kind of known that you need to. Perhaps you've been struggling with this or something. But I feel like there's a whole kind of, there's a side of this that I feel like, and I feel like I've talked to you guys about this before, in previous readings, where essentially, you know, there's a difference between like, I need to let this go, or, you know, I've let this go, and actually finding forgiveness about something. For example, if you have really found forgiveness for something, you're not going to keep bringing it up. Okay? Like you're you know, for example, if this is something to do with some kind of partnership or relationship or what have you, maybe family even, you know, if you've truly forgiven something, you're not going to keep bringing it up to that person over and over and over and over. Right? Well, you did this and you did that. And that's not to say that we don't experience things where, you know, it's difficult to forgive. I'm not saying that it's easy by any means, because speaking from experience, it certainly isn't. But I do feel like part of the realization or epiphany that came through for you in the month of February could have been around the fact that if you are not able to find forgiveness, you're going to be imprisoned by whatever that thing is, whatever trauma wound that you're holding on to. You're going to be imprisoned by that. It is going to keep you running in circles. It is going to keep you stuck in that place, especially when it comes to relationships. Right? And the thing of it is not only, let's say you experience some kind of trauma with one person and you are unable to forgive. When you go to have relationships with other people, it is going to show up there as well. right? So it's this repetitive cycle. It's exhausting. And so I feel as though for some of you, even if you may have not been able to um, fully step into forgiveness or to allow yourself to fully forgive, I feel like you may have had the realization that this is what it's going to take in order for you to truly move forward. I've just heard, stop telling the same stories. And I'm almost certain, Capricorn, that this is something that has come up in previous readings for you. Stop telling the same stories. Because you want to give energy to the things you do want, not the things you want to keep experiencing. Or not the same cycles, right? So if something is like maddening to you, don't keep giving it juice. Don't keep plugging it into the wall and saying, yeah, let's keep doing that again. Right? So I feel like the realization is the only way to set yourself free is to let it go. Let it go. It is not serving you. Whatever this is, it's not serving you. It is keeping you stuck. It is keeping you running in circles. It is essentially a form of self-sabotage. Okay? It's like drinking poison. So I feel like, again, part of the realization is in order for you to truly set yourself free, to truly experience something different, whether that be with yourself, with others, with anything, you have to let things go, right? Release judgment of yourself, of others, set yourself free. And, even if you don't feel, let's say, for example, that someone else deserves your forgiveness, even if you, adhere to that, it's not for them. Like, firstly, forgiveness will set you both free, honestly, but it's not condoning whatever happened. You're doing it for you to be set free, so you are not you're not trapped in that prison of betrayal. You're not trapped in that prison of, guilt and shame and deceit and whatever. We can talk about that for hours, right? Whatever the wound is that you experienced, it's not about condoning that, but it's about freeing yourself from it, right? So you also have here the law of perfection. Choose to view life in all its glory. So here's another card of, essentially saying what you think about, you bring about. The world mirrors back to you your beliefs. The world mirrors back to you your thoughts, right? The frequency you are holding, the world is mirroring back to you. And so I feel, again, in February, part of the realizations or epiphanies that may have been brought forward for you were to choose to see things differently, which is why I feel like this whole kind of energy of the exchange of perspectives or the exchange of, different viewpoints or ideas or beliefs or, and being compassionate and open and understanding to these things, or to be patient and trying to understand them, not only with yourself, but with someone else. I feel as though all of this was meant to position you in such a way that you, how do I say, like you could start to, like it says here, energize what it is you actually do want to experience. Because I keep seeing this in my head. It's like almost like this, it's like a freaking merry-go-round. Like it's going and it's just the same stuff all the time. And like I said, it feels exhausting to me. Like mentally exhausting, emotionally exhausting, even physically exhausting. Like it just feels altogether exhausting. And I feel like, again, the realization was to bring you to this place of, whatever you're giving energy to, that is what you're going to experience. So why not? What have you got to lose by choosing to see life gloriously? What have you got to lose by being positive? What have you got to lose by seeking beauty? What have you got to lose by looking for the really good things? What have you got to lose by being hopeful? Right? Like what have you got to lose? I feel like oh, that's interesting. I feel like some of you are afraid of being let down. And here's the thing, Capricorn, like, I mean, I say this with so much love, and I hope you can feel that. But here's the thing. If you're afraid of being let down by the world, so much so that you never give yourself the chance to hope, that you never give yourself the chance to, wish, to try to see things in a positive light, you're not going to experience those things. You literally shut the door to those things. And that is exactly what you're going to experience. So I feel like, part of these realizations were, it's time for me to look at the world differently, because the world is going to mirror back to me what I expect. Whew, February feels like it was something for you, Capricorn. Let's see what else we have. The law of power. Remember the truth of who you are. So I do love this because there's this big moon in the background here, which is also here on the law of giving and receiving card. And I do feel that part of the realizations was seeing through the illusions. I feel like for some of you, someone once told you, this is this, you are this, right? Whatever this is, okay? You're too much, you're not enough, you don't know what you're doing, you're, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but someone put, and I think I want to say I might have said this to you guys before as well, maybe. But it almost feels like somebody put some kind of definition on you, or some kind of belief on you, or some kind of something like that, some kind of paradigm. I don't know what it is, and you just bought it and you've been selling it ever since. This is how life is. This is how I am. This is how things have to be, right? Like whatever that is. And I feel like February was bringing forward this realization of, like, that's not who you are. You didn't decide that. Someone else did. Someone else told you that. Right? And maybe, the thing about that is, okay, I just want to make something very clear. The thing about having these beliefs or, paradigms or what have you thrust upon us is those individuals were working with what they knew, right? I say this a lot on my channel. I actually haven't in some time, but I have said it a lot on my channel is, you don't know what you don't know. Forgive yourself for that, because you don't know what you don't know. That also applies to others, because more often than not, people are working with what they know. Okay, even if they are doing the stupidest things, a lot of times they're working with what they know. I'm not saying it's right, okay? But recognizing that, there's power in that. And now that I feel like you have been put in a position where you can realize that you had these things thrust upon you that were not of your own choosing, you can say, okay, now that I know that that is not mine, that I did not say, yes, ooh, let me have a dose of that insecurity. Let me have a dose of that lack mentality. Let me have a dose of that, this is the only way it is. Right? Now that you know that you didn't really just, I'm not saying that, that's true for everything, okay? But now that you know that you may have had these things thrust upon you, you can start to dig and remember who you are. What do you believe? Underneath all the things, what is it that you actually believe from the depth of your soul and heart? Because I feel like, again, like I said before we got into the cards, I feel like February for you was trying to bring you to the state where you are the leader of your own life. What does that mean? That means that you're not letting anybody else tell you who you are. Right? But that pendulum swings both ways. So not only, is it about people not telling you who you are, but it's also about you not telling others who they are. Right? So very, very interesting. But I feel like it was meant to put you in a position where you have, power over who you truly are. And you reclaim that power, that sovereignty. I'm going to grab the guidebook real quick. I just want to read this message for you. I think it's probably going to be valuable for someone, maybe even if it's only one person. So let me take a moment to find that. Okay. It says, have you ever experienced feeling powerless in an area of your life? The moment you hand over your power to anything in the external world is the moment you will experience feeling disempowered. It is time to wake up and remember who you are and the power within. By drawing this card, your higher self desires for you to take back your power and decide to live a totally faith-driven life. You are the force. Take one bold action towards your dreams. Get out of your comfort zone today. Interesting, right? Because there's also this energize the mental picture of your dream. And how are you being called to step up and lead? That's bold action. Forgiveness is bold. Why? Because a vast majority of people struggle to do it. It's a very bold and courageous, act. Okay? So I'm actually going to just read the interpretation real quick as well, just to add a little bit more to this. This law states that there is an immeasurable life force that has the ability to move mountains, part the seas, and create miracles. You are this life force. Deep within is an unlimited power for good, and you are it. You have the capability to direct, influence, and inspire all living things. And you have the ability to invert it and cause massive destruction. This is the axiom that let me read that again. This is the axiom that you are life and that you have the power to impact the world positively or negatively. The extent to which you awaken to the truth of who you are is the extent to which you will experience your divine power. I'm going to leave that there. I feel like there's fear coming up because I feel like some of you maybe didn't even realize how much power you actually do have until I just read that. So I'm going to leave that there. Let that marinate. We have here, yes, come on now, Lord. The law of allowing. Stop trying to fix, change, or control anyone. Yep. I mean, I feel like we've discussed this at length, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this card. I feel like more than anything, it's just a confirmation for what has already been coming through. Okay? And again, I feel like the epiphanies are essentially, you can't, Capricorn, period, end of story. No matter how badly you want to, you cannot fix, change, or control anyone. Also, I feel like I need to add in here, you cannot save anyone either. No matter how bad you want to, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay, everyone has free will. Everyone. And I feel like a large part of the realization or epiphany that was brought forward to you is to surrender, to let people be who they're going to be. That doesn't mean that you have to stay there and be that with them. Okay? I think a lot of people get that confused. That doesn't mean that you have to stay there and be that with them, but we can't control anyone. We have to allow them to be whoever they are, to make their own choices. You have here culmination, release, illumination. Also, the lunar eclipse is here, which is later on this month. I believe it's on March 25th. And I do feel like there's something there. Maybe not for everyone, but I feel like between now and that lunar eclipse, I feel like there could be some big things. I feel like more of these types of things may be coming through. More things may be coming up to better align you with these things that we've been talking about here, to really illuminate you to a lot of your own truths and truths about the world and others. I also feel like a lot may be coming up for you to release, to let go of, to give yourself this opportunity to, how do I say? Yeah, thank you. To give yourself this opportunity to really kind of piece all of this together and to rise into that leadership position over your own life. And I say this with so much love. I really do. Capricorn, it feels like for some of you, I really feel that there are some of you out there that your external life has been the leader of your life. Not you, but your external reality. And whatever that is, it could be a multitude of things, very different for each of you. But I do feel that there are those of you out there who have been essentially, oh my gosh, hopefully you still like me after this, but I'm going to tell it like it is and how I'm getting it. Some of you, your external life has been the puppet master. You have been the puppet to your external experiences. And I feel like all of this is unfolding to bring you to this place, this culmination where it's like, look, this is what's going on. And you have this opportunity to step into the lead role of your life. You've been sitting on the sidelines. You've been playing small. It's time to get on the field, right? It's time to be the leader of your own life. It's time to take center stage of your own life. Oh, good God. That I know this is uncomfortable to talk about, okay? And more I find myself saying that in pretty much all of my readings. But just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's not true. It doesn't mean that it doesn't require our attention, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be said. So, hopefully you guys can feel and know that this comes from a place of love. And I've had to have many of these realizations in my own experience. Okay? I've had to have a lot of hard truths come forward for me as well. And, I have this thing I say all the time, which is, the truth will set you free, but first it's going to hurt a lot. A lot. Okay? That's not to discourage you, by the way, because what's on the other side of that is absolutely incredible. Okay, yes, it's painful to deal with the truth, but it is far, 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 far more painful and much longer drawn out pain to live a lie. Okay? So you have here as well, disconnect, withdraw, and reception. So interesting. I feel like some of you Okay. So for some of you, I feel like you kind of, I don't know why I'm getting it this way. I've got the word like bow out gracefully. I don't, this is not something that I would typically say. So perhaps this is something that, some kind of confirmation for someone specific. But I feel like there's this whole kind of energy of like, I'm just going to bow out gracefully. Like I'm just going to remove myself from whatever the situation is because I don't belong here. I don't, I don't know. Again, I don't know what that might mean. But that's what I'm getting. So, there's this energy of like withdrawing um, from, environments or situations that maybe you have just felt, it's no longer where you want to be. I also feel like with this card here, I feel like some of you may have just, I don't want to say it so much that you're like separating from people, like permanently. But for some of you, it feels like I just need to go like on a hiatus. like I just kind of need to go over here and just do my own thing and to not necessarily have to deal with the energy of others. That's not to say that maybe you're not still showing up for your responsibilities like your job or your kids or whatever. But it feels as though there's this there's this kind of energy of I don't have the capacity to just entertain things that aren't meaningful to me. So that's I mean that's kind of a whole nother story than what we've been getting here. So that's really interesting. Again, maybe for somebody very specific. Um, I don't know why. So I keep seeing, if you can tell, in between each of the signs there is the void of course black strip, right? And I feel like for some of you, you've been going through like periods where it's almost like I don't want to say like a dark night of the soul, but maybe that's what you would call it. Like you've been in the darkness and then come out into the light and then found yourself like in the darkness again. It's so strange. I mean, not strange because I've definitely experienced this in my own journey. But it's just interesting that I would get it this way from this card. It feels like, you may have like been illuminated or enlightened to a lot of things, and it's essentially like getting these downloads, these things that are bringing forward all of these truths from within you, and then you kind of go through a little bit of a dark period where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to figure all this out. Like, it can feel very difficult because it brings up a lot of wounds or traumas or programming or lower egoic drives that you kind of got to have to work through to emerge into the light once again. So I feel like for some of you, you may have been going through a period where it's like you're high and then you're low, you're high and then you're low, you're high and then you're low. And so I do feel, that perhaps part of that, epiphany or realization is that, okay, so it's kind of like I'm going in cycles, right? Maybe you've started to pick up on that. Let me just grab this guidebook here for a second and see if there's anything else I can add with the card or from the interpretation of the card here. So give me just a second to see if I can't find that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let me just, I think another way to put that is essentially, you may have found yourself like being social and being out in the world type of thing, and then wanting to just go in. So, maybe it's not necessarily just darkness and light, but maybe it could also be this more external, internal type of experience. And it's interesting because I feel like for some of you, when you go through that dark period or when you go inward, it's almost like you emerge different, which I mean, it goes without saying, but it's like you learn a lot. If this is for you, I feel like you learn a lot in those dark periods, even if they're not very long, or those more internally where you're more internally drawn periods. I feel like you go in and you learn a lot, and then you come out like illuminated, and I feel like you can see it shifting your external reality. But I'm going to go ahead and read this to you just to give you a little bit more. So I'm not going to read, well, yeah, I'll read it all. It's fine. It says, moon void of course occurs when the transiting moon makes its last major aspect to another celestial body before moving from one zodiac sign to the next. It is the liminal space of the moon itself entering the void. Since the moon enters all 12 signs, or pardon me, all 12 of the signs every 27 days, the moon void of course happens every 2 to 3 days, occurring several times a week. This is felt collectively, embedding the air with restlessness and a lack of focus. During this time, it's best to involve yourself in receptive pastimes like meditation, journaling, dreaming, and other yin or feminine activities that pull you inward. By restoring yourself, you are brewing energy that you can infuse into your manifestations when the moon goes direct. Let yourself rest regularly. So it's interesting because I was getting fear there. For some of you, and this is, I just want to preface this by saying that a lot of people experience this truly, because a lot of people don't like what this feels like. But I did get fear coming up after reading, other yin activities that pull you inward, because I was picking up that feeling of darkness. And a lot of times, we go inward and we start to uncover truths about ourselves. We run into our own darkness. Simple as that. I mean, and it's complicated, but we do. And so, a lot of times people will start to fear going inward because you meet your darkness. The truth of the matter is, regardless of how saintly one might think themselves to be, we all have darkness within us, or the capacity for darkness within us. And in order to really truly grow and to evolve, we have to come to terms with that. And we have to learn to face that, which allows us to discern darkness in the world. So I do feel like for some of you, maybe that was a pretty big challenge. You have here as well, transformation. Things are changing at a cellular level. Deep healing. Yes, absolutely. I feel like there are those of you out there who have felt this happening. You maybe didn't even know what to call it. You were maybe sitting there like, I don't know what's going on, but it just feels like things are changing. Perhaps some of you did experience some big changes in the month of February, but it feels like for others that maybe this wasn't so obvious, or, wasn't something that was mirrored, let's say, back to you externally. I feel as though you felt things changing within you. You felt like there are that there's some kind of change happening, right? And I feel like some of you maybe have come to this realization that you are on this kind of deep healing journey, and that you are transforming at very deep levels again, which is why I feel like I picked up that whole kind of going inward or going into the darkness and coming out, and like feeling how things feel different, how you feel different, right? Yeah, and it's interesting because she does have that big sun there behind her head, which I feel like is really speaking to, how much you've been illuminated to your own, to your own truth. Okay. Where do we want to put you? Right there, I think. Perhaps not. Sorry, guys. Let me just try to fit these all in frame. Do a little bit of rearranging. Okay, that's good. All right, so how might this impact your journey moving forward, Capricorn? The law of individualization, shine your unique light bright. Okay, so I love this card. It's one of my favorites in this particular deck. But I first want to point out that you have a rainbow here on the law of allowing, and you have a rainbow here on the law of individualization. Shine your unique light bright, right? So stop trying to fix, change, or control anyone. Shine your unique light bright. So I feel like I'm getting this whole kind of like, the whole song, like Somewhere Over the Rainbow type of thing. I feel as though this could impact your journey moving forward by, how do I say this? You could find yourself arriving on the other side of that rainbow, okay? Where, or how do I say? Where, you guys, I'm sorry. I'm really trying to find the words to translate how this feels. Because essentially what it is, somewhere over the rainbow, like birds fly, why can't I? Where things are more harmonious, more peaceful, more free, happier. And I feel like what you may learn, or how this may impact you moving forward, is that in order to be in that space, right, where things feel happier, more peaceful, free, more free, um, these sorts of things, is really about putting out what you want to receive, or understanding that when you put limits on other people, right, when you try to box people in, essentially, that's what you're receiving back. I read this book, Christ Returns, where he says man cannot escape what he says, does, thinks, feels, right? Like, it finds its way back to you. Maybe not exactly the way you put it out, but you essentially reap what you sow. And so it's interesting, right? Because it's like, if you are trying to make someone else small, notice how small the woman is in this card. That's what you're going to experience. But if you let them be who they are, then that is what you experience. Look how large this woman is in comparison, right? You let them be the leader of their life. You then become the leader of your own. I hope that makes sense. Or you give yourself the opportunity to become the leader of your own. But I feel, this is really trying to position you to be, again, be exactly who you are. Remember the truth of who you are, but from a very deep level, from your soul, from your heart, not from the programming and trauma and wounding and paradigms and belief systems and all the other things that have been piled upon you throughout your life, but who you really, really are underneath it all. What is that song? Is it like Gwen Stefani? You're really lovely underneath it all. Oh gosh, what is that song? I'll try to find it and link it in the description box. But I'm really getting that song because I feel like it's about realizing how lovely, how beautiful, how magnificent each person's uniqueness is. Life would be boring AF if we all thought the same. If we all did things the same, it would be boring and we would never learn. Okay? You also have the law of correspondence. Yes, come on now. See life as the ultimate mirror guiding you to the highest version of yourself. Like I said, I was already picking that up, right? When you try to fix, change, control, box anybody in, that is what you experience. Right? It's like, God shows up and is like, oh, you're going to box all these people in. You're going to, restrict them. You're going to, be very rigid in how they should be moving, acting, thinking, breathing, being. So guess what? You're going to experience restrictions in your own life where things don't seem to be working or moving, where you don't seem to be able to be who you need to be or do what you want to do. I'm not saying that that's your exact experience, okay? But these things happen. It really, really does. So, again, I feel like moving forward, this could impact your journey by like, oh, okay, so let me just go ahead and fix that. Let me just work on healing that. Let me just work on, being more flexible, more allowing, more open, more compassionate, kinder, understanding, right? Wow. Okay, you also have adventurous, free, and philosophical. So here, it's pretty much like the keys to the kingdom. I mean, in some way, saying, if you want to set yourself free, let people be who they're going to be. Let them be free too. Be optimistic. I feel like moving forward, you could really find yourself shifting perspectives where maybe you once before were very kind of rigid and structured or even restrictive or, something like that, where you are finding yourself actually opening up, being more optimistic, being more open-minded, versatile, enthusiastic, seeing life as an adventure versus a punishment, and setting yourself free. Because I feel like some of y'all have been walking around, and I say this, it feels like you've been walking around crumbling under the weight of the world, crumbling under the pressure you've placed upon yourself. And in those experiences that you've been carrying around, okay, from, whatever it is you've experienced, the pressure you put on yourself to carry those experiences, to take on all the responsibility, right? Like, it's almost like you guys have picked up all of your wounds and your traumas and your pain and your belief systems, and you just loaded it up on your back without question, and just have been carrying it around ever since. And it feels like you've been crumbling under the pressure because it's been flowing into every area of your life, or many areas of your life, where you've been seeing things in a very heavy way. And I feel like moving forward, you may find yourself freeing yourself from that. As you slowly start to take off those things you've been carrying around, as you lay them down and free yourself, I feel like you could start to be far more enthusiastic about the world. You may find your life invigorated, right? And you may see, your future as a grand adventure. Wowzers. Oh my goodness. Okay. You have here as well, trust the niggle. What is the niggling feeling trying to tell you? This is an interesting energy to come in. I feel like for some of you, actually, I feel like some of you have adopted or opened up to spirituality in some way that maybe you hadn't previously. Maybe you reached a new level of that with how these things have been unfolding, or strengthened it in some kind of way, strengthened your connection with, God, angels, whatever you call it, of course. But really, maybe learning how to trust your intuition more. Maybe before you were utilizing those intuitive skills as a more practical, or rather in a more practical sense, so things like, maybe I should just not go to the store tonight, or let's stay out of that dark alley, it just, something feels off about it, or that person doesn't seem very trustworthy, or something like this. And maybe now you're starting to apply it to, yourself. In the sense of, oh my, I'm feeling like I should take up this hobby. I'm feeling like I should, take on this role or this job or this calling, or I feel like for some of you, it's interesting because it feels somehow like some of you were, looking at intuition as like a practical thing to like keep you safe, or something like that. And now moving forward, you may be opening up to it in different ways, like expanding on that, recognizing it perhaps as a tool that you can utilize in all areas of your life, not just when it comes to being practical. I know that sounds really strange. That may sound that may sound silly, but I feel like you'll know what I'm talking about if it's for you. Okay. And certainly, if you're here, you probably have some sense of your intuition or spirituality, I would think. But I feel like moving forward, you may find yourself trusting those feelings more and more, especially as you strengthen your connection with yourself and you are honoring your truth more and more and more. I feel like you will find that you are trusting that more. All right, so the messages or advice to best support and serve you moving forward, Capricorn. The law of tithing. Expand your consciousness and all things will be added. I really feel like this is an encouragement for you to really open your mind. I really do feel like that's what it is. I mean, I know that goes without saying, right? Expand your consciousness and all things will be added. I just feel like how do I say? It's like you haven't seen anything yet, Capricorn. You haven't, because you haven't let yourself. And I feel like if you just keep, all right, we're going to be open. And don't get me wrong, you're not 7-Eleven. You shouldn't be open to all things all the time, okay? Use your discernment. You're smart. You're intelligent, okay? So I'm not telling you to run through life all willy-nilly, all right? But at the very least, being open-minded to different perspectives, different ways of doing things, to learning more, to, again, expanding your consciousness. For some of you, this is about learning about spirituality, growing in that. If you're somebody, I feel like some of you have already been down this path where you have been actively on your own time seeking out things to grow in your spiritual wisdom. Okay, maybe this is books, maybe it's YouTube videos, maybe it's going to certain places, maybe I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's just simply something like prayer. I don't know, but I feel like or meditation. But I feel like some of you have been actively seeking to grow your spiritual knowledge, your spiritual lexicon, your depth. Even if you were kind of like on the fence about it previously, I feel like some of you have been doing this. And I feel like if that's true for you, I feel like this is your message or advice to continue doing that. Because here's the thing. With spirituality, especially in New Age, it can be very, very easy to go into what would be labeled by many in spiritual science as like luciferic ways of being, which is, there's no structure, there's no rules, there's no, it's just kind of all willy-nilly. But spiritual science gives a structure to our spiritual development, our spiritual evolution. Now, I'm not saying that's the path that you have to choose, okay? Because there are many out there. But, I feel like something like that may be beneficial for just how you're, like just your way of thinking, okay? Because I know Capricorn really likes that structure, really likes to have some kind of foundation, something that's more kind of rooted in Yeah, just more rooted, right? It's not like all pie in the sky, kind of off in la la land. I know that that tends to be more preferable. So you may want to explore those things to give you that structure so you're not over here like this doesn't make sense, okay? And I just want to heads up, there are a lot of things in spirituality that won't make sense, okay? There are some things that are simply not meant to make sense to us from this earthly plane. But, with something like, for example, spiritual science, it gives you that it's like, this is why this is. This is why this is happening. And I feel like for some of you, this could be something that could be very, very beneficial in helping you to to expand your consciousness and to do it in a way that feels more like you. Okay? So finding some kind of spiritual practice or, spiritual teachings that resonate with you, I feel like could be very helpful. And certainly, the more that you do this, the more you open up, the more room you have to receive, the more room you have for different experiences. Right? The tighter, the more closed off you are, the less other things have the ability to come in. Okay? So I feel like if you want to experience more, then you've got to be willing to expand. Okay, you have here as well auspiciousness, positivity, and luck. Very interesting. I like this energy for you. Because I feel like here's the thing. First of all, we spent a lot of time talking about positivity here. And second of all, I feel as though, again, the more you are open to things and you're not so kind of, clenched, if you will, or closed off, the more likely it's going to feel like, how do I say this? When you're more open, okay, when you're not closed off, when you don't have yourself kind of barricaded behind a wall, let's say, it's more likely for you to experience things happening. How do I say this? You know how if somebody were to like live behind walls their whole life and then they go outside the walls, you've seen this in movies and things perhaps, and they're like, oh my gosh, like there's so much out here, So I don't know that it's necessarily that your luck will increase, okay? But I feel like if you only view the world through a negative lens, you're only going to experience negativity. Once you put on the positive glasses, or once you start seeing the world through different eyes, then it just seems to me like things will feel more abundant. Things will feel more positive. It may even feel as though you're lucky because you're experiencing things in a completely different way. And I feel like the thing of it is it's always been there, Capricorn. It's just you've been like, nope, I don't want it. I don't want it. Nope. No thanks. Right? It's just this whole kind of like being shut down to it. So you've been unable to experience it because you're like, I don't want it. And once you start saying, okay, I'm open to seeing what's out here, then you start experiencing the things that have actually always been available to you, right? I hope this makes sense because, again, expand your consciousness and all things will be added. You have Mintonkin, longing for home, belonging, the original light workers. Yeah, I feel like for some of you, here's the thing. I feel like some of you have, no matter where you've lived, for some of you, right, 4 walls, a roof, I feel like you have not felt like you've been at home. Some of you, and that's not to say that maybe you don't enjoy your own space, but I feel like there are those of you out there who have felt like there's something missing. Maybe you felt like you don't really belong anywhere, or people don't get you, or you always feel misunderstood, or something like this. And I feel like that's stemming from that not truly knowing yourself. I'm a firm believer, and I say this on my channel all the time, I'm a firm believer that home is not 4 walls and a roof. Home is your soul. It is within you. It is your truth. That is your home. Because when you feel at home there, you can pretty much make yourself at home anywhere. Okay? Whatever building, it doesn't matter. Okay? So I feel like this isn't so much about you trying to figure out where you fit in, because I'm going to be honest, if you're watching this, you're probably not meant to fit in. Okay? You're probably not. Most people aren't, to be quite honest. We're all here as unique snowflakes with our own reason, our own purpose, our own mission, our own value that we add to the world. We are these beautiful, unique, magnificent creations, and we're not meant to be fitting in. Like I said, if you're watching this, you probably felt like that. Like there's something more, and it's because there is, right? And you probably haven't felt like you belong, or, maybe even growing up, you were like, like the black sheep, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And maybe you felt like you didn't really have some place that felt like home, or maybe you just felt like something was missing. And I feel like the piece that was missing is your truth, right? Connecting with that on a very deep level, having deep reverence for that, honoring that, loving that. And so I feel like the message for you is to find that. See the light within you. Again, you have here, right? Shine your unique light bright. But again, more so than anything, I feel like it's about really allowing people to be who they are, and giving you the opportunity to see the light and the potential in the world and in other people, so that you can do what you came here to do, right? So you can step up and lead, so you can answer your deepest calling, so you can shine your unique light bright, right? So that you can show up as, show up in the power of you. We have here as well, keepers of the earth, you are not alone, ancient ancestors stand beside you. Okay, so with this card, I feel like part of the messages here are simply, you're not alone. And I feel like it's important for you to know that. I feel like many of us, feel like we're going at this alone, when in truth, we have a tremendous amount of support. If you have been paying attention, or if you have been, very much kind of in a state of awareness, you've probably noticed this. Okay, so on this card, for example, you may have seen some of these creatures showing up. On this card, there's an eagle. There's there's two eagles. There are wolves. There's cougars. There's elephants. So you may have been seeing those repeated in your experience. There are what appear to be to me angel's wings. There's what it looks to be like some kind of whale, I believe like a beluga whale maybe. So you could have been seeing these sorts of, these animals in your experience to give you signs, and this being confirmation for you. But otherwise, I feel like you probably know you're not alone. You probably see things out of the corner of your eye, or feel like something's around you, even if you don't know what that is, even if you've been a little bit like, ooh, I don't know, it doesn't feel good, or freaked out, or, whatever it is, or perhaps you've had dreams about this. But I feel like this is confirmation for you to know that you are not doing this alone. You have spiritual support there with you, and you can seek that help, seek that comfort, seek guidance and advice at any given point in time. The members of the angelic and spiritual hierarchies that are of God, that are of truth, love, and light, will not force themselves upon you. They will not force you to do anything. They will not impose on you. That's not to say that you can't experience them, because you can, okay? Because they can let you know, they can drop hints and, all the things, but they're not going to make you do anything, okay? So that means you have to ask. And I think it's important to note at this point that you have to use your discernment. okay? Because not every spiritual being out there, not every entity out there is an angel. Not every entity is working on the behalf of the good of all, okay? It's simply not true. I know there's a lot out there in the new age that says, oh, love and light, everything is love, everything is light. And I just don't feel like that's accurate. Certainly, take it as it resonates with you. It's your life. You're going to do what you want with it, but that's my perspective. And I just felt as though I should share that. So, holy biscuits and gravy. This has been a really long reading, Capricorn, but I'm so incredibly grateful for you sharing so much of your time, your energy, and your attention with me. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to connect with your soul today. So thank you, thank you, thank you for spending so much of your time with me. I truly am so very grateful. I pray that this has blessed you in some way, shape, or form, provided you with confirmation, clarity, help, or value in some way, shape, or form as you navigate your journey. Thank you again for being here. If there was something that did resonate with you, I would like to remind you to please like this video, subscribe to the channel, provide some feedback below, or share, this channel or its content with others, as that, again, it may be helpful for someone else. I pray that you have a beautiful rest of your month, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Know that you are not alone. Know that you are certainly strong enough to, keep pressing on, to keep going forward. So long as you are open, you have faith, and are willing to receive all that the universe has to offer you. Take care of your expanding, growing, beautiful, unique, bright, shining soul. Peace be with you and within you, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye.